Hi, I'm Aby James. I play Rachel on How I Met Your Father, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So, on today's episode, we are going to be talking all things How I Met Your Father with one of the stars of the show, Aby James, who plays Rachel. So excited to have you on the show today. Thank you for coming on.
Oh my gosh, of course. I'm so pumped when you reached out to me. I love chatting up and talking about how amazing the show is.
Yeah, no, like I said, I am loving it so far. And before we get into all things How I Met Your Father, I wanted to just kind of ask you to kick things off. You're an actor, you do stand-up comedy. How did everything kind of get started for you in the first place?
Oh, well, jumping back to very early on, I started getting into theater around 4 or 5. But the reason I did was because I was cripplingly shy. And so I just latched on to my older sister, who was very passionate about musical theater. And just, during time, I think it took me like 5 or 6 years to like finally open my mouth on stage. And once I got my first laugh, it was like, this is it. This is done. This is everything I'm doing. And so I did both stand-up comedy and musical theater and regular theater all my life. And then when I moved to New York, because I'm originally from LA, I went to Pratt Institute for film editing. And I realized very early on, I was like, this isn't the right fit. I just need to jump into acting. And the next thing I knew, I was doing something called an industry night with this casting person. And she was like, "You're so funny. Would you be interested in auditioning for SNL?" And I was like, okay, who wouldn't? And so I made an SNL tape, which involves 3 original characters and 3 celebrity impressions. Don't ask me to do them. I'm horrible at celebrity impressions. But I didn't get that far in SNL, but the video ended up kind of circulating around a lot of people in the entertainment industry. And then I was able to get a manager, and that was kind of when my career really took off.
That's so interesting. I mean, everyone I feel like when they're a little kid for the most part can be kind of shy at times, but to go from being this shy little kid to then wanting to do acting and stand-up comedy, especially stand-up comedy, I mean, that's something where you just put yourself out there. So that's interesting that you kind of made that transition.
Oh, 100%. There's, people I run into from my childhood who don't even recognize me because they're like, this is absolutely not the person we met. So I
Would
totally understand.
would not have expected that. And
Yeah.
now, you're in How I Met Your Father, which again, excellent show. So happy that I got picked up for the second season and got additional episodes. So I had asked you, if you had watched How I Met Your Mother, and you have. Myself, I have not seen a single episode, so I was kind of going into How I Met Your Father completely blind. Did you? Because I'm always curious with this when I talk to other people. Did you initially audition just for Rachel, or was there any other characters that you went for at the time? Do you remember?
No, I just auditioned for Rachel, and it was like a really last minute audition. I'm based in New York, and I got this audition on like a Wednesday, and they were like, "It's due tomorrow." And I was like, "Okay." And I think one of the reasons I specifically auditioned for Rachel, and it's one of the things I love about the show, is they're very specific on the people they pick actually representing the identity of the character. So I'm actually both queer and Jewish. And so I was very specific for this character, which is why I don't think I would be up for anything else. So I auditioned just through self-tape, and I did not think I did a good job. I was having a really bad day when I taped it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is what it is. And so that was like a Wednesday. Then by a Friday, I got a call that was like, oh, you were passed to the producers, so now they're going to watch your tape and we're ultimately going to decide. And then there was an excruciating whole week of deciding. Got the call, and they're like, great, you need to fly in tomorrow.
Jeez.
And that's like when it all began. But I think that, yeah. And when I read the part of Rachel, I was like, wow, I can do this in my sleep. It's like so effortless, and I felt easily connected. And so, yeah, I was so pumped to get it. I also think it's really hard as a queer Jewish person. I very rarely are up for parts that I truly identify with. Like, I tend to go out for a lot of straight people, considering that's the majority of, the material given these days. So just when it came along, I was like, wow, this is an amazing opportunity to help really formulate my career into something that's really genuine to me. And
Yeah, that's really cool that they kind of had that in mind when looking for the specific characters. So
yeah.
that's a really interesting story. And man, talk about last minute, like, oh, by the way, like this is due tomorrow, and then oh hey, you gotta fly out tomorrow as well. Like once you heard back, it's like no pressure,
Yeah.
anything like that.
100%. And originally for the character, it was the way the breakdown said they were like maybe 1 to 3 episodes, possibly reoccurring, but like only guaranteeing an episode. And so I did my first episode, and then so I think that's why it was so last minute, because I was like almost just like a one-off guest star, and then I was able to build a lot more. They just kept writing for me, and then when season 2 came, they were like, it's just going to be one episode. You and Rachel are just not. You and Ellen are just not going to work, and that's it. But then they ended up continually writing me into the show, which was like so amazing. But I think that originally it was like, let's just do this quick, because they like didn't think much of the character. So
Yeah, no, that's always cool too when it works out like that, where a character becomes, a fan favorite, or like you said, the writers just really like the character, so they're like, okay, hey, we're gonna bring you back for a couple more episodes, and then next thing you might be a recurring character, but then maybe down the line that you're gonna become just like a regular part of like the cast as well. So that's really exciting. Can you just talk about your first day? Because I know you said you were a fan of How I Met Your Mother, so I imagine must have been really exciting, fun to get on the set for How I Met Your Father. What was your first day just working on the set like?
Oh, it was amazing. And something that's really cool, and I think the diehard How I Met Your Mother fans notice, but like even just down to the crew, everybody is from people who worked on How I Met Your Mother. So it was very much walking into this space, and one of the ADs my first day was like touring me around the lot, and he was showing me like where Pemberton's was actually where I know the Cheers set was.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure McLaren's was like, that was maybe the original, or that could have been on the other lot, but just still showing all the different apartments being the same thing. A fun fact about Hilary's apartment with, I'm sorry, Sophie's apartment with Valentina is that is the apartment of the woman that Ted like ultimately marries, like is the mother from How I Met Your Mother. So they really do put in these Easter eggs that are like really interesting that I didn't even notice, because I watched the show when I was really young. And so I didn't really know much, but I also think something that's really cool about the show is you don't need to watch How I Met Your Mother to watch How I Met Your Father. They're very different, but I also think they kindly really put in these, connections to still respect what was before the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that was one of the things because I ended up stumbling. I mean, I saw the cast and I was like, I mean, this is a great cast. So that was the first thing that really caught my eye. But I was like, oh, is this one of those things? Like, am I gonna have to have watched How I Met Your Mother in order to appreciate this? But no, yeah, like you said, they do a really good job. But if you are a big fan of How I Met Your Mother, there's a lot of different like Easter eggs that you just get a little bit more enjoyment, I feel, out of the show if you have seen that. So after like once I'm caught up in everything, I'm gonna have to go back and now watch How I Met Your Mother and then I'll be able to probably pick out some of those different things as well.
Yeah.
Now, your character Rachel is dating Ellen on the show, played by Tien Tran. What's it been
Mhm.
like working with her on the series? And do you have any fun or just like funny stories from you two working together? I'm sure you guys must have had a blast on the show.
Oh man, I had a huge blast. I feel like I have a lot of great memories with everyone on the show, but I remember when I was first of all very nervous to meet everyone. I mean, like you have some of your childhood icons like Hilary, Duff, and Josh Peck that you're working with, and it's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. But when I met Tien, my number one worry was, what is our chemistry going to be like? But I think something that's so special about her also doing stand-up is we know a lot of similar people, and we know how to make good jokes happen. And I think that's really where a chemistry took off. I don't know how much I can share, because I think the funniest story that we had to do is later on in a
Okay.
future episode. There involves an intimacy scene, and that obviously can be a very awkward thing to do.
Yeah.
But it wasn't fully awkward. However, we worked with an intimacy coach, and essentially it involved a yoga ball that we put on top of Tien that then I had to sit on, and we had to try all these different positions, and we had to, and there, it was just, we couldn't stop laughing through it because we're like, this is the craziest thing. So I just love her. We just have a really great banter, and we have a really good time. So
Yeah,
really
you guys right from the get-go, when the two characters are introduced, you could just feel that chemistry between the two characters. So I think you nailed that for sure. And that actually answers one of my other questions I was going to ask you is there going to be any more Rellin coming up in the next several episodes or just like in the future part of season 2? So obviously I don't want you to get into any trouble, revealing too much, but it sounds like we can look forward to more Rellin coming up in the rest of season 2. So that's very exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I think that the progression of their relationship, albeit like kind of, it ends up getting to a place that like really feels right. It very much feels like a very slow burn, but I feel like, yeah, we get to a place where we get to explore more ideas within us. And so hopefully that continues.
Yeah, no, excellent. I can't wait to see that then. Now, which characters on the show would you like to see Rachel interact with more, or maybe even just interact with that she hasn't had a chance to interact with so far up to this point? I don't know. Again, I don't know if some of that, if you can't reveal some of that, depending on what happens in the rest of season 2, but is there any characters that you would like to get more time with?
Well, I feel like I get like a small bit of time with everyone, but obviously would love more. I feel like for the storyline, if I got to have more time with Tom, that would make a lot of sense to me because they're roommates and best friends. And I feel like that would be a really great opportunity, especially because, Rachel's met Valentina. It would be really interesting to see the other side of it.
True.
I would also love if, which isn't a character on the show yet, or I don't know if ever, but I want to know about Ellen's ex-wife so bad. And so wanting to know what they could explore there and if I would get to meet her would be really interesting. But I feel like Charlie's great. Sid probably, solely because Serge was one of my best friends on the set and I love him and he's just so, first off, everyone's so talented. Also, Chris, I get to work with him a little bit and he was just a dream to work with. They all are, but like, I do hope I get, also because Chris is her brother, I just wish, like, I hope I get more connections with the people that are like very close to her.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of interesting opportunities that I think different pairings that we could get in the show that I would like to learn more about, just like you were saying. So hopefully we get to, it sounds like we will get some of those to play out, but hopefully we get some of those that, we're not sure about yet, maybe play out, whether it's season 2 or, future seasons of the show as well. Now, if Aby James met the characters from How I Met Your Father, who do you think that she would connect with most out of the cast if it was yourself?
Oh, Ellen, 100%.
Ellen?
I feel like it's also safe to say like queer connections are really easy to feel very comfortable with, but I also really identify with her self-deprecation and the way she goes about things. Honestly, she reminds me a lot of my partner, so I think that is a fair reason to say I would gravitate towards her. And I think I would also gravitate towards Sid because he's just so damn likable. Like just so amazing. And I also think that I would love Valentina, which is why I was like, I don't want to say bummed, but with my experience in the double date that we had, I just wanted it to be like, oh, we became best friends. But obviously that didn't really work.
Yeah.
I think with me it would.
but honestly, yeah, the whole cast, every character on the show is really, that we've met as far as like, main cast is so likable. So yeah, I could see like even like myself going on there. I feel like it would be really easy to connect with pretty much any one of these characters because they don't just all have different aspects, about them. So, but that kind of makes sense, especially when you're talking about just like her background with stand-up comedy and stuff like that too. It seems like you guys have a lot of common, so it makes sense that you'd be able to, connect with her like on a personal level too. As far as what kind of sitcom trope episode would you like to see How I Met Your Father tackle maybe in the future that they haven't yet? I know for me personally, I'm always a sucker when it comes to like holiday episodes.
Yeah.
So something like a Halloween, or because I'm big horror and Halloween person, so I would love to see that. Is there any particular like sitcom trope that you would like to see them tackle in the future?
Well, I will say that I think Halloween would be a great idea because in How I Met Your Mother, Halloween's a big deal. There's like a huge storyline that happens over multiple seasons about Halloween in general. So I do think it would be a really great thing. I guess no, I don't think they didn't do it when they in the first season fully, but I think it would be something that would be really fun to explore. I think that I don't know if it's necessarily a trope, but like I hope that they get more into the idea of putting Ellen in more complex situations. So whether it be a love triangle or like any type of sitcom trope like that, that like really offers her more depth and like really creating a decision in something, I think would be really cool. But otherwise, I probably will think of a better answer in a little bit. So I'll let you
Fair,
know.
yeah, no, fair enough. No, I mean, and if you now, as far as for you, if you could have any other characters from maybe another sitcom cross over with How I Met Your Father, do you have any characters that you would like to see maybe appear on the show that would be a good fit?
Man, I've never considered the idea of anybody out like from another sitcom outside of the How I Met Your Mother/Father universe, but I can tell you the number one I would love to have is Allison Hannigan, who plays Lily on How I Met Your Mother. I'm a huge Buffy fan. And so like I think I would cry if I met her. So that is all I want. Like I was, because every season there, I don't, well, at least season 1 and 2, they bring back someone from How I Met Your Mother. And I
Yep.
was really hoping it was going to be Lily, but obviously Barney is like in one of the fan favorites. So
Yep.
that probably had to happen, but
I was
maybe
gonna
next
say I did
season.
know, like, I not having watched, but I know of the show, so I knew that he was a character that was on there. So when we saw him, I was like, that's pretty cool, even like not having watched the show. But yeah, I think I imagine you're not alone as far as people wanting her to appear on the show. And hopefully, whether it's, I don't know if season two is completely, I believe you guys completely
We
filmed
just wrapped,
season
yeah.
two. So if not season two, obviously, then maybe like, future seasons, that would be nice to have her come on, and then hopefully you get a chance to meet her in person.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, the reason I started watching How I Met Your Mother is because she was on it. Like that was my sole reason to watch it because I love her so much. And yeah, so hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean, everyone on I do really suggest watching How I Met Your Mother because the characters are so great and the actors are so great. I think it's really easy in multicam sitcoms to just be very one dimensional and like really not like offer a sense of like uniqueness to each character, and I think they do a really good job in that. I think that How I Met Your Father is really doing that too. I think like the writing is being more like crisp and like really helping shape these characters even more, and I love that, like as you'll see throughout, and it's already begun, that like even Sophie is getting like way more quirky, and Kim Control is like actually mirroring that, which I also think is really been a great in the progress of it all, because Hilary is such a goof. Like no one will understand how much of a goof she is. Like we'll do scenes together and then out of nowhere when she like messes up a line, she'll just be like, and everyone's like, what was that sound? And she's like, I'm just not feeling good today. So she loves voices and she is a great time.
Yeah,
So
as I say, I know for me, growing up, like obviously Lizzie McGuire, and where we just had like the Lizzie McGuire reference recently. So that, that's definitely something that, I've been a big fan of hers for a while. And then also for Allison Hannigan too. For me, probably one of my favorite franchises. I love the American Pie
yes.
franchise, specifically like the main, part of it. So seeing her on there, so that's a reason. Yeah, another reason I'll have to check out How I Met Your Mother too, just because I love her work from that too.
Oh, yeah, and I'll tell you, it's very different from. I remember right, like when she did, I believe she did How I Met Your Father and then American Pie, or like reverse. But I remember being like, oh, how can this person do both roles? Because Lily is very like sweet, and I wouldn't say timid, but like she very much reminds me of Hannah, Sid's wife, like
Mhm.
kind of like really sweet, but like kind of like more reserved. And then later on in the series becomes a total wackadoo. But it's really interesting to see the levels that she can go from Buffy to American Pie to How I Met Your Mother. And I think that's something that a lot of frankly non-actors don't understand, is that like sitcom is so different than any other type of TV. Like there is a formula. It is always line joke, line joke. It has to be done in a really specific amount of time, so timing always has to be in the right place. While something that's like a single cam can feel a lot more natural, you can kind of take your time with it. But with multicam, that's not the case. It's like go, but make it like comfortable and natural, you know. So it's
No.
definitely a challenge, and it's really cool to see how she's was able and is able to do all of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely easier said than done for sure.
Yeah.
And like you were saying too, just with the show, I like, yeah, all the characters are complex, and they almost like all the characters they get their moments to shine, or even like their own episodes to really shine. And I appreciate that, because sometimes you can definitely have series or movies or anything like that where, you know, some characters definitely get, you know, kind of like sidelined and you don't really get to explore them a lot. So I do feel like How I Met Your Father does a really good job of kind of, you know, whether it's in like one particular episode or they get their own episodes or just different moments where you get to kind of learn more about those characters. So I really appreciate that. It's definitely become like How I Met Your Father's definitely become like one of my comfort shows that I like to watch, where I just like I want to sit down, you know, relax. It's the end of the day. It's like, okay, How I Met Your Father's coming on. Get to just like enjoy this. Do you have any particular shows or movies or anything like that that's kind of the same thing for you?
Oh, 100%. Listen, like, especially since the pandemic, I feel like a huge focus of mine has been comfort shows. Originally, it was very much like 30 Rock and Parks and Rec that are really big. Those are also two shows that very much have also shaped me as a comedian and a writer. So I really love to explore those. I have to admit, I love trashy TV. Like, I love it. Like Love Island UK, amazing. The Mole is incredible. Specifically the Mole in like the late 90s, early 2000s when Anderson Cooper hosted it. That's a wild time. So I think those are very much a Survivor. So those are very much comfort shows for me. And yeah, so I very much identify with the comfort shows.
And now I don't know if this is something that you know, if they've kind of told any of you guys yet. So if you can't answer it, totally okay. But in your opinion, if you had to guess, who do you think the father is in the show? Or do you know? If you know, then you can't. Obviously, I know you can't say, but
I have no idea. They don't even tell me when the How I Met Your Mother alumni come. Like what they do when we do our read through, they just cut that part out of the script and they just give it to Hilary because they don't want somebody like even telling anything.
yeah,
So I definitely don't know. I honestly don't think that anyone knows really. I'm assuming Hilary knows because she's also an executive producer,
yeah,
but I know the internet is really pushing for Sid and Sophie. And it's so interesting to me because if you know them in person, there is no romantic connection there. It's just that Serge is so likable and so flirtatious that like, and so is Hilary, that it can kind of seem that way. I'm interested to see if they're going to run with it because the fans want that so bad.
yeah,
I like the idea of it being totally thrown a loop was like, I always say I think the coolest thing would be if it was like it could be Charlie or any of them, but only through sperm donation. Like I like the idea of it being like a twist that's like it's not like they're romantically together.
yeah.
So like I think then
That
that
would
way
be
it
cool.
could be any of them. And it's such a twist. I will not ruin How I Met Your Mother for you, but I will just be honest and say the twist when you find out who the mother is frankly disappointing. And
Oh
so I
no.
hope that they redeem themselves, because it's also like all the same writers of How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah.
Um, so I hope that they redeem themselves in that sense. And I would love a good curveball, but I really do hope it's like one of the like, was it like 5 people that we've met on that first episode, and not just like, oh, there was a stranger who was also there.
Yeah.
So I would be happy with any of them. And I also love Jesse and Sophie together. And
Yeah.
people seem to like not, and I get it, it feels kind of obvious, but like that I could imagine it's like her and like Jesse get together at the end after she gets a sperm donation from Sid, or like something crazy like that. Cause I really like them together.
Yeah. I agree.
And like Chris is such a good actor, and so is Hilary, but the way he enhances everybody he works with is like, it's just a really amazing thing to see. And he works so hard. Like he is there running his lines on set, doing everything he can, and really likes to rehearse ahead of time. And I really appreciate the prep he puts through.
Yeah, and I think it comes across in his, performance with the characters too. You can definitely tell that, everybody puts in a ton of work, to what they're doing. But yeah, I think for me personally, that's the pick that I want. Although I know it's kind of like obvious, and some people are probably like, oh, that's what the obvious choice would be. But I don't know. I think they just like click together and it works. But I would like, same with you. I would be up for anybody on the cast. Just because, I think all of you guys fit in like different interesting ways. So I would be happy with any of those. And I do hope it's not the case where it's, some like random stranger that we've maybe like seen one time or haven't even seen it all until like it's revealed, oh, this person was there at the, the very beginning. We just didn't see this part of the room or something like that. So I hope that's not the case as well.
Yeah. Me too. And I hope honestly it's not Sid at this point, because that feels almost as obvious as Jesse.
Yeah.
Hard for me to envision Charlie and Sophie together, which is why I'm like, maybe it's through sperm donation. But I just think that could be a really cool idea, because she's a very independent woman and things like that. But I mean, even like you can notice during Kim Cattrall's bits, her photo of Jesse is hanging in the background. So they clearly aren't on bad terms.
Yeah.
And they're giving you that hint. But I don't know if that means that she's with him. I don't know if I would want a huge picture of myself in my home. But that is, So I hope they do it right. I have a lot of faith.
It's one of those things I kind of wonder too, and I don't know if it would have been the case with because again, never watched How I Met Your Mother, but it's one of those things. I wonder if they know from the beginning where it's like, this is like, for a show like this, these two characters are going to end up together, or is it something like you mentioned where in How I Met Your Father, where the fans are really pushing, for Sid and for her, that is it something that maybe evolves as the show goes on and they're like, hey, you know what, we were maybe going to go with these two, but then they end up picking another pair of characters. So I'm curious, like, if that's the case, if it's just like, nope, we have this from the get-go, we have our story ready to go, or it's something that's like ever evolving as the story seasons go on.
I'm really interested about it too, because I think the difference between How I Met Your Father and How I Met Your Mother is How I Met Your Mother's social media was at a completely different place. How I Met Your Father is like, I do think that the viewers are very influential. I do think it was a huge reason that they brought me back. So I think that they do consider what people are saying, but I also do think that, like, somebody told me when I was first there for season 1 that when they pitched the show, they had to like do like a 7-year plan. So it was like, what's going to happen over the 7 years? So they do have a set father now, but since we're only at season 2, like, is the viewers going to help influence a change? Will be really interesting to see.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to see. Well, is there anything else, Aby, that you wanted to say just as far as like the fans go, or where can fans kind of follow you for updates on your career as well?
Well, you all could follow me on Instagram at Aby James, ABYJAMES. And fans, like, keep tweeting, keep sharing your thoughts. It really does have more of an influence than people realize. So
Awesome. Well, again, Aby, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come on, talk about your career, talk about the show. I had such a blast, talking to you. So thank you again for coming on and doing this.
of course, me too. This has been wonderful. Hi, I'm Aby James. I play Rachel on How I Met Your Father, and you're watching Pop Culture with Pat.